Hi, I'm Larry McAtee, Ward 3 City Councilman. What a delight it is today to have with us for our show the Director of Public Works in Oklahoma City, Eric Wenger. Eric, thank you for coming down and sharing your experience with our viewers today.
Thank you for having me.
How about giving our viewers just a brief synopsis of your background? I think that's fascinating.
I came to the city in 1994 after graduating from the University of Oklahoma. I'm actually from Texas. Had done a summer internship.
Look at horns.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
I'd actually done a summer internship with the city of Denton as a civil engineering intern student and learned to survey and do water lines and sewer lines, and it was convincing enough to go to college to study it further. So upon arriving in Norman, Oklahoma and going to school at University of Oklahoma, graduating, chose Oklahoma City as our home, have two young daughters who have been born and raised here and have no desire to leave.
So you're an Okie by choice.
I am.
And I am also from New Jersey, an Okie by choice, so we have something in common right there.
That's great.
How about giving our viewers a little bit of an overview of what the Public Works Department is responsible for?
Public Works is one of the city's largest departments, and the responsibilities are significant. With 400 employees, we're responsible for all roads, bridges, and drainage improvements throughout the city. The city is very large at over 620 square miles. We have 8,000 lane miles of roadway.
Whoa.
We have over 700 bridges that we're responsible for, miles of channel and drainage pipe that require maintenance, but we also do a lot of new construction, so it would be new infrastructure and improvements, building construction. So projects today that are under construction, including the new police headquarters, the improvements at the ASA Hall of Fame Park, and others throughout the city, those are also under Public Works.
Now, Public Works has also been integral in the different MAPS projects that have been completed to date.
So we are a partner with the MAPS office, and a lot of the project management is done by Public Works employees. Whether that included the original MAPS 1 or the MAPS 2, MAPS for Kids initiatives, and now MAPS 3, Public Works has had a part in those as well.
Now, as you've ascended up to be the director, you've had your finger on all of those MAPS projects, haven't you?
Coming to the city back in 1994, I was appointed to manage the Bricktown Ballpark, which was my very first large project. Moving on into the new downtown arena, overseeing MAPS for Kids and the school reconstruction program, being able to kick off MAPS 3, but now returning to Public Works. Yeah, it's turned into a career for me.
Now, the MAPS projects, of course, have very specific targets, but the roads and bridges, how are they funded and how are they kept up and how are they built?
The streets and bridges in Oklahoma City, and specifically the streets, require continual maintenance and monitoring. We actually survey all the streets every year to assess their condition, and they're ranked on a scale of 0 to 100 for our information. But the funding for the improvements of streets comes from a variety of sources. A lot of that is from the city's bond issues, and the most recent one was in 2007. But we also work very closely with the state and federal funds when those are available. We work with adjacent counties, but then we also get additional funding from our city council for additional road projects from time to time.
Well, how about giving our viewers a little bit of an appreciation for the 2007 bond program, and why would we be interested in 2007 when here we are in 2015?
So many of the improvements that are occurring across the city are from the 2007 bond issue funds. Those funds approved at that time were in excess of $800 million. $500 million of that, though, was just for streets. And we continue today to work on streets that were approved in that bond issue. And that work actually will take several more years before we're finished. When bond issues are passed, all the money is not available at once. Each year, about $70 million on average is sold by the city of Oklahoma City that's based on a 16 mil property assessment. Those projects are completed, and then the next year additional monies become available. So we have been working those projects since the passage of that bond issue. New projects are coming onto the list, and those will be considered in the next bond issue that currently looks like it's going to be in 2017.
Now, why this 16 mills? Who gets the credit for that?
So I'll give the credit to the city council, I think, as part of the campaign for the bond issue.
It's either the credit or the blame, so go ahead.
I think as we look at the platform, and as the city council in the past has decided, not raising property taxes has been really a strategic goal of the council, and the 16 mil has been there for a very long time, and it's really, I think, been important in the past for us to be able to go out and say that we're not raising citizens' taxes for this next bond issue. However, I would say that the council has the the final decision on how that would be for future bond issues.
Yeah, in a future bond issue, should we want to do things faster, we would need the funds faster. We could raise that 16 mils to 18 or 20 or 22 to accomplish it if that was the goal of the council at that time.
And that's entirely possible, and because of the net assessed value of property increasing, as property values increase more quickly, especially with a lot of the improvements in Oklahoma City, that is a factor as well. So additional fundings may become available just with all the improvements that have occurred over a number of years.
Well, when you're talking to the citizens out there and they're wanting their work done faster, you can put this face on there, because I was one of the leaders who said, no, we want to keep the taxes at 16 mils. But that has a consequence to it, didn't it?
It does, and so we are limited somewhat, especially when we look at, say, the year 2009, where Oklahoma City did experience some of the national recession, when net assessed values weren't growing, and with the commitment to not raise property taxes, sales in those 2009, 2010 were not as high as expected, and so it did slow the progress of the project slightly. We expect that it may be added a couple of years to the bond issue, but those projects are still promised and they're still going to get completed.
Let's talk about some of those projects as they apply to Ward 3.
Okay. There's a number of projects that are underway. Probably those that are the most visible today is the work that's currently underway on Northwest 23rd, which is a streetscape project. It's 3 miles of streetscaping. First phase has been completed. Second is under construction, and the last phase will begin this year.
Now, when you say streetscape, what does that mean?
So streetscape being a little bit different than, say, a traditional resurfacing or just a street widening project, there are going to be district markers on Northwest 23rd. There are going to be some decorative lighting and just some other identity features, some landscaping, enhanced sidewalks, and things that you just wouldn't expect on a normal street project, just to give the district an identity.
Yeah, we're trying to make that into a place to attract people in and to promote economic growth and also a higher quality of life, aren't we?
Absolutely, and so the city and the staff have worked very closely with the district, obviously very closely with your office as well, to make sure that that's a success for all that are on 23rd Street.
Now, what are some of the other projects we've got going in Ward 3?
You know, we do a lot of work, not just bond issue. I mentioned others with the general fund resurfacing dollars that came available from the City Council. Ward 3, fortunately, with about $3 million over the previous 3 years, has been able to do additional work like on Southwest 59th Street. There's 4 miles of street construction that's occurring there. 2 of those miles are complete. The next 2 are coming up here in just the next year, but those are additional projects as well. But we've got neighborhood resurfacing as a part of the 2007 bond issue. There's about 6 square miles of neighborhood streets that will be resurfaced. But then we've also got other bridge and other bond issue projects as well that are in Ward 3.
So right now, you said 6 square miles. We've done 1 square mile of neighborhood resurfacing already with the 2007 bond. So we've got 5 more to go, and that'll be done over the next 3 or 4 years?
So what we're looking at with the projected bond sales coming up is that we hope to begin construction of that final residential street in the year 2019. So it may seem like it's a little bit out there, but we have several streets that are going into construction here in 2015, additional streets in 16, 17, and so on.
Now, when we do a neighborhood and a square mile, what can the neighbors expect in that neighborhood to have happen?
So in Ward 3, we actually have different types of neighborhoods. We've got, of course, the more urban style neighborhood that's curb and gutter, but then we've got some very rural residential that don't have curb and gutter and typically use a bar ditch for drainage. Both are resurfaced if they're in those miles to be resurfaced, but what can be a little bit different is we intend to add sidewalks as a part of our street construction projects under the bond issue in those neighborhoods. Now that's, of course, if the neighborhood wants those sidewalks. We have had some requests that they don't want them, and we comply. But in most cases, we are trying to improve walkability in the neighborhoods throughout Ward 3.
Because that walkability ties into the mayor's vision on making us a more healthy community to live in, and walking and sidewalks and health all kind of play together, don't they?
They do, and fortunately, I think the council in 07 saw forward and looked to make sure that the funding was available for those, and so those are being constructed. We are seeing some challenges, though, in the rural residentials with the bar ditches and the absence of curbs. The sidewalks are very difficult to make ADA compliant, and so we have not had 100% success in those areas, but the majority of all of the bond issue streets do have a sidewalk included.
Now, you threw in 3 letters right there, ADA compliant. That's been a real challenge in all of our road projects, hasn't it? Doesn't it have some consequences that you have to adhere to?
Especially on our streetscapes where we have a lot of an urban setting. When we do road construction and we impact intersections, it requires us to upgrade all of the crosswalks, curb accessibility ramps, But even the new pedestrian signals, the countdown clocks, the audible signals that you now find along 23rd Street, those are a part of the street projects. And yes, they are quite complicated. It requires us to, in many cases, flatten out and not make angles too steep. And it's just a challenge, especially in an existing infrastructure.
And sometimes it leads to that situation that kind of infuriates a lot of citizens, and us too, of putting in curbs and gutters or curbing and making a ramp that is ADA compliant with no sidewalk to surface that ramp.
There are some challenges, and that does occur from time to time. It also extends the duration of construction, and so a lot of times it doesn't appear that there's a lot of work going on the street itself, but there's a lot of work that's going on behind the curb, either in the sidewalk or through utilities or through some of the other infrastructure that goes with the street. So it has been a challenge, but it's being worked.
Now, how about in the course of everyday using the streets, where potholes appear or the roads begin to deteriorate real quickly? We also are very active in trying to maintain the streets that are not being resurfaced, don't we?
We do, and as I mentioned, we actively, on an annual basis, analyze our streets. We make sure that each one is accounted for. We prioritize streets that are in need and start planning those future years projects. But inevitably, potholes do develop and failures do occur. And we do rely on our citizens to help make aware, in some cases, bring those to our attention so that we know to go to fix them. We suggest that they please call our city's Action Center at 297-3535 to report a road condition or any other concern that they might have in the city, so that we can immediately get a crew dispatched to take care of that. But we also have a smartphone application, okc.gov, that's available for those. And it's a unique resource in that it actually locates the complaint on the user's phone. And so as that's sent directly to the city, we have an exact location of where the complaint has been made.
Are the folks in Ward 3 beginning to use that app?
You know, I think it's generally being new. It's just released at the end of last year. The actual usage hasn't been reported yet, but I suspect that we are seeing citywide usage, including Ward 3 of the application.
So this gives your crews information of what areas need immediate attention, and it also gives us information about what we might want to do in the future.
It can, and then we, of course, also take email and phone calls from our constituents that let us know of other prospective projects, you know, ones that they may want to see in the future, or just bring to our attention maybe something we might have missed in one of our previous studies.
Let's talk about the future. We've been talking about the winding down of the 2007 bond program. What's on the horizon after that?
So we are already in the midst of planning the 2017 bond issue. As there's a little over $200 million left to be sold in the 2017 bond, or the 2007 bond issue, sorry. We are already looking at the list of projects for 2017. All wards citywide, it'd be streets, bridges, drainage, of course. There's also police, fire, parks, and other projects. But as we start to look at that list, it's highly important that we prioritize them correctly. So we're looking at the streets in the worst condition with the highest traffic. And as we also look at the citizen survey that is sent out each year, we're very aware that the #1 citizen concern is the quality of city streets.
Now, to be totally candid and honest, though, as we wind up our interview, we're not going to be able to resurface or widen every city street that might need it in this next bond issue. Is that not true?
It hasn't been accomplished in the past, and I don't suspect we'll be able to handle every street in 2017.
But you and your people are committed to do the best you can with the resources that we give you, that the citizens provide us with through their property tax, in order to do as best job as we can.
Absolutely, and we continue to look for other funding sources even outside of the city of Oklahoma City, either through county partnerships and again through either state or federal resources to enhance what we're already doing as a city.
That was kind of a sneaky way to get a little commercial in at the end. Thank you for your time. Hey, I hope you viewers got a vision of what the Public Works Department under Eric Wenger's leadership is doing. You know, a city is more than just paving and asphalt and roads. It's important. The character of our people is even more important, and we're blessed here in Oklahoma City to have a faith-based community that's looking with optimism to the future. And thank you for what you and your staff do to contribute to the accomplishment of that vision. Thank you all for watching.